All right, let's talk about AI. If you're building with it, there's this one question that's probably keeping you up at night, right? How do we move fast without, breaking things? Well, today we're going to dive into a really smart framework for that. It's all about sorting your AI projects into risk tiers so you know exactly how much caution to apply. And really, this is the goal, isn't it? Just imagine being able to match your safety controls to your risk level and doing it with total confidence. Look, if you're building with AI, this is not some nice to have. It is the key to actually innovating in a way that lasts. But here's the big but, right? This is the catch. It's that constant tension that I think everyone is feeling. Of course, we all want to be safe and responsible, but man, the pressure to build and deploy fast is just huge. So, how do you possibly find that balance? Okay, so this brings us right to what we call the AI risk dilemma. It's all about balancing progress and protection. Think of it like this constant tug of war. And if you're in the trenches building with AI, you are living this dilemma, probably every single day. You see, without a clear system, what happens is teams get stuck swinging back and forth. On one side, you've got the overly cautious approach. You're the tortoise, right? So careful you get bogged down in analysis paralysis, just watching your competitors zoom past. But then on the other side, you've got recklessly fast. That's the hare. Moving so quickly, you're basically one bad step away from a huge mistake, maybe even a PR disaster. And let's be honest, neither of those approaches is going to win you the race. So, what's the answer? It's a simple risk matrix. Now, the key here is that the answer is a framework, not some 1,000-page rulebook that's going to be out of date by next week. What you need is a flexible framework, really a mental model that lets your teams make smart, consistent decisions all on their own. And the cool thing is, the core concept is super simple. It all comes down to a matrix based on just two things: likelihood times impact. That's it. The likelihood of something going wrong and the impact if it actually does. Okay, so first up, let's talk likelihood. This is pretty much what it sounds like. What's the probability that something bad happens? You're just asking, how likely is it that this thing fails? Are we talking about a super rare, one in a million kind of thing? Or is this a problem that could realistically pop up pretty often? And then you've got impact. This is all about the severity of the consequences. So if the system does go wrong, what's the blast radius? Is it something minor, like a typo in an internal email? Or is it a full-on five-alarm fire, something that could seriously affect a person's health, their money, or their safety? Figuring that out is absolutely crucial. And this is where the magic happens. You take likelihood on one axis, impact on the other, and boom, you've got this super useful 2x2 grid. Look down here in the bottom left. Low likelihood, low impact. That's your safe zone, your low-risk stuff. But up here in the top right, high likelihood, high impact. That is your danger zone. And the other two boxes, well, they're somewhere in between. All of a sudden, you have a simple, visual way to think about and categorize any AI project you're working on. All right, so now we're tiering our use cases. We're moving from this abstract matrix to some concrete action. Because look, this grid is a great diagnostic tool, but a diagnosis isn't enough, right? We need a plan. We need to turn this into a prescription for what to do next. And that is where risk tiers come in. We're going to simplify this whole thing into clear levels that tell us exactly what steps to take. So instead of thinking in 4 quadrants, we can just simplify it down to a 3-tiered system that anybody can understand. You've got tier 1 for low risk, tier 2 for medium, and tier 3 for your high-risk applications. This is what makes the whole framework actually practical and, maybe more importantly, easy to talk about with your team. Okay, let's make this real with some examples. Think about an internal bot that just helps your team search through documents. If it messes up, what's the worst that happens? The impact is pretty low. That's a classic tier 1, no question. Now, what about a chatbot that talks to your customers? A mistake there could actually hurt your brand's reputation. So that probably bumps it up to a tier 2. And then think about an AI tool that helps doctors with medical diagnoses or a bank with loan approvals. Whoa, the potential for serious harm there is massive. That is a clear textbook tier 3. Now, a really smart framework can't be static, right? It has to be dynamic. That's why you introduce something called escalation triggers. These are just predefined conditions, basically rules, that automatically move a project to a higher risk tier. So for example, say you have a tool that was only used internally, but now you're going to make it public-facing. That should be an automatic trigger to bump it up a tier and do a whole new review. It's how you make sure your risk assessment never gets old and dusty. Okay, so let's take a step back. We've figured out how to identify the risk. we've tiered it. Now we get to the most important part. What do we actually do about it? This section is all about matching controls to that risk. This is your toolkit for building with confidence. So what's in this toolkit? Well, think of these as all the different levers you can pull. You've got procedural stuff, like needing a senior leader to sign off on something or getting a third-party audit. But you also have technical safeguards, like way more detailed logging so you can trace everything, or even really advanced things like using trusted execution environments for extra security, and making sure you know your data provenance.
Okay, pay attention, because this table right here, this is the heart of the entire system. It shows you exactly how the controls ramp up as the risk gets higher. So for a simple Tier 1 project, maybe some basic logging is all you need. Easy. But for Tier 2, you're going to want to add things like formal approvals and regular performance evaluations. And for those really high-stakes Tier 3 projects, you pull out all the stops. We're talking mandatory audits, trusted execution environments, the whole shebang. It is all about a proportional response to the risk. So, when you put all this together, what do you actually get? Well, you get safety, speed, and accountability. And let me be clear, this is not just about ticking boxes on a safety checklist. Having a clear system for managing risk is a real, genuine strategic advantage for your company. In fact, I'd say there are count 'em, three huge strategic wins you get when you adopt a system like this. First off, it aligns your teams on safety. No more of those endless, circular debates about what's safe enough. Second, and this is so important, it actually speeds up your low-risk projects because you're not bogging them down with unnecessary red tape. And third, it creates rock-solid, clear accountability. Everybody on the team knows the rules of the game for the project they're playing. So I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. When you look at your own team, your own organization, is your approach to AI governance a roadmap that's actually helping you move forward with confidence? Or is it a roadblock that's just causing confusion and slowing everyone down? The choice, and now the framework, is yours.